Hey y'all, hey, welcome back to my channel. Once again, it's your girl J.AERIELLE. I'm so happy to have y'all back with me. So today we're gonna have a great, amazing conversation. And we're gonna talk about mental health. So the last panel that I had, we talked about dating, and that was such a huge success as far as, people being able to express themselves, share their thoughts and opinions. Not only that, I got such good feedback from you guys about how you enjoyed hearing the different perspectives. So I decided to keep the trend going, keep the ball rolling. And today I have two panelists that are going to discuss mental health with me. We're going to just have that conversation. We're going to be real. We're going to talk about things that we see all throughout social media, all throughout society. And we're just going to deal with it. Like, what's up? What's going on? Why are we like this? So I have two panelists today. I hope you guys enjoy the content. I hope that we're able to maybe give you some food for thoughts, maybe encourage some of you to really deal and manage your mental health better. And not only that, I hope that this encourages you to know that you're not alone, that we hear you, we feel you. Not only that, you have people that are your allies. So if you ever need someone to talk to, you know you can always come and talk to me. So, without further ado, we're getting started. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So, I'm going to allow you to go ahead and just introduce yourself before we get into our hot topic of the day, which is mental health. So, you go ahead and give us, a quick intro of who you are and why you decided to do this with me today.
Yes, so I'm Amber Mack. I am a content creator on almost every platform. So TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, podcasting, blogging, you name it, I do it. I'm just a very creative person. And in my creativity and just being a human, my big thing is being very transparent and being very open and honest and being relatable, because I think that's something that the world misses sometimes. So it's always been important to me to incorporate that in my brand. And in that, I started to incorporate mental health and depression and anxiety and healing and all of those things, simply because they're all very much things that people go through of any age. I think the subject becomes uncomfortable and people don't like to talk about it. So why not talk about it with someone who makes you feel comfortable and makes you feel like you're just talking to your homegirls? And if I could change one person's life, I've done my job. So that is what drives me. I have a daughter, she's 3, and I want to help her come up in a world that acknowledges mental health and acknowledges struggles and how to better deal with those things. So yes, if you're not already, follow me on Instagram. I mix beauty and mental health together. So my podcast is More Wine Please with Amber Mack. My website is sincerelyambermariemack.com. My YouTube is Amber Marie Mack. Everything is pretty much my name, is my signature. And my Instagram, of course, is Amber and Mack _. And you'll pretty much find all my good stuff there. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
All right, y'all. So here we go with Adam. This is our other panelist. Give us a little introduction to who you are, and then we'll get into the conversation and just talk about, mental health and I want you to provide the male perspective, so everyone else can see like it goes both ways.
How y'all doing? My name is Adam. I'm from Orlando, Florida. I'm a athlete, play football and track and field, high school, collegiate, and professional. I'm big on mental health because, especially in my field and what I do, it's hard for people like me to express ourselves, but I know it's important, so that's why I'm big on it.
We are going to get into the meat of the matter, and that is mental health. We're going to just have a conversation, because I think, like she said, this is something that a lot of people find uncomfortable to talk about, even though literally probably everyone goes through mental health struggles. So our first piece today that we're going to dive into is really going to be basically how to be transparent. Like, you just mentioned that your biggest thing is being transparent with the content that you create and with the struggles that you have, and mixing them all together to still make things that are desirable for, intake of the population. You know, you want your followers to like what you're putting out, but you still kind of mix in that transparency of, hey, you know, I struggle just like you struggle. Like, you know, I'm not perfect. Why do you think it's so hard for some people to be transparent? And then what basically gave you the courage to be transparent about what you go through?
So I think it's hard for people to be transparent because I just think everybody wants to be perfect. Or everybody wants to have this cookie cutter life, and that's just not how it is. And I struggle with comparison a lot. So because of what I deal with, I'm always just like, wow, well, they're doing this or they have this. Or I look at other people's struggles, and I've always been told, like, you don't know what people are going through behind closed doors. And then it kind of was like a light bulb, because there was a lot of times where people thought a certain way of me. And then I'm just like, what? Like, I be sad half the time. Like, what are y'all talking about? So I just think that people are, one, afraid. I think it's a lot of fear and a lot of judgment that people are afraid to undergo. And I also think that people don't like to face themselves, because once you start to be honest and open about your feelings and what you're going through, you then have to carry that all the way out. And I think a lot of times people don't want to carry that burden. They want to be able to just shake it off, or don't want to be judged. And it's just like some days, like, that burden is too heavy to carry, where you have to be real and be honest. And even if you start with one person, you have to be honest with yourself. And even if it's your parents, I mean, my mom did not understand mental health at all, but because I've become an advocate, she is a little bit more understanding of how people feel. And I wanted to always bring that transparency to my platform, because if I know how I feel every day, and if I know what I'm going through, I know there's other people that feel that way. And I think it's like that fellowship, it's that community. And I don't like feeling alone. It's nice. People's struggles aren't great, you know, like, you don't want to hear someone struggling, but it is a breath of fresh air when you're like, oh, it's not just me. Oh, she's dope, but she has depression, or she's dope and she's anxious. Wow, I can be dope and still deal with these things too. I just genuinely want to see people be people. Like, I don't want to see a robot. I want to see people. And my quote that I came up with for myself was, I want to be to the world what I needed from the world. And so that's one of the main things that drive me. Is it's like, I want to be to people the very thing that I needed, that before mental health became popular, it would have been nice to see someone like me talk about it. So that's my driving force.
You know, like, I'm nowhere near the content creator, you know, such as yourself or other people. But what I've learned is just in my own lane, in my own space, I mean, I'd be the most creative, but, you know, like you said, you want to have a voice. And whenever you have a passion for something, and mine is very similar to yours, I want it real. When you're first starting, you feel like you have to follow all of these different trends. You feel like you have to fall into, like you said, a cookie cutter type of feel and vibe.
Okay, but you can be beautiful and also be X, Y, and Z. It doesn't all have to be in one tier. And in this day and age, that's the challenge that you have to really kind of challenge yourself on. It's like, how do you be authentic when that's not necessarily the norm?
Right, authentic, but yet relevant. Like, how do you mix the two? Like, I wanted to bring to the table something different, real conversations, raw conversations. Like, I want to talk about the stuff that people maybe talk about with maybe just one or two friends. I want to talk about that publicly. You know, I want to have unpopular opinion and speak on it, or a popular opinion that people just act like that's not what they're feeling or thinking.
Right, because there's a lot of those too.
So it's just like, that's what I wanted to touch on whenever I decided to start my channels and, you know, start trying to be somewhat of an influencer, is to, you know, be to people. Like you said, I want to just, if there's somebody out there that likes what I bring to the table and it helps them get through another day, it encourages them to embrace who God made them to be, then that is, like you said, a win for me. That's why I'm here. Like, I'd rather stay true to myself than to get lost in the sauce. Okay.
It gets real saucy. Okay. When you start doing, like, it's real saucy, it's like, okay, I need to wheel it back in. Who am I truly? And then go from there.
I think the biggest reason why it's a struggle is because men are natural competitors. We compete against each other on everything we do. So when one expresses themselves or seems vulnerable or weak, he's behind the pack. He's not competing, like he's not at the top of the food chain because he's being soft or he's being emotional. So I think that's a main reason, because we don't want to fall behind everybody else. Like, we got to stay alpha, we got to stay strong, we got to stay aggressive, and it's looked at as it's less aggressive, it's less of a man sometimes to be emotional. And I changed because I realized I'm not really in competition with everybody else. I'm in competition with myself to be better. So if expressing myself and talking about my issues helps me and makes me better, then that's what I'm all about. I'm not trying to compete with the next man or who else.
I grew up with all boys. My dad, he's like a man's man. And so I never really seen emotion or like none of that until my dad got older and I started realizing, like, as a man, you are looked at to not really show no type of I remember my dad used to always say, never let them see you sweat. So you're supposed to act like it's always good. Like, you ain't never, not saying you don't have struggles, but you ain't never supposed to let nobody know you have struggles, because then, like you said, it's like you're weak. You're not at the top of the game. And that's whenever, as a man, I feel like you feel like somebody can like come up under you and maybe swipe, whatever it is from you, whether it be your position, whether it be, I don't know, like whatever is makes a man man. I'm a girly girl, so I don't know like what that ego or what that what that vibe is that I see happen with men. I don't know the exact words for it, but I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm pretty sure like the other people that are going to listen in on this conversation, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, like we see that when we. For you, what were the signs of mental health decline? Like, when did you realize like mental health was a thing, but not only was it a thing, you were dealing with that as well?
Um, I didn't realize until I had time. I didn't really realize it was a problem until it was just me alone, um, staying busy. Being an athlete, especially a collegiate athlete, you're always busy, especially a football player. You're always busy. We train year round if we're not playing. We in school year round besides a few weeks. So you're always busy. And even being a man, like you got so many tasks, not just being an athlete, you got so many tasks, so many people you gotta take care of, and the weight of your neighborhood or family is on your shoulders. So you always busy, you always thinking about other things. Um, Me, I didn't like I said, I didn't realize until I had time, until you know I wasn't playing football at the time. I didn't have any other obligations. Graduated from school, and it's just me sitting in my like looking at myself in the mirror, and that's when everything really started to catch up to me. Like, it was no more distractions. It's just me and the man in the mirror, and that's when I realized that there was really a major problem. I wasn't stable like I thought I was, and there was many things that needed to be addressed, but I never addressed because I never had time, or I was so focused on everything else.
Because as a man, I feel like you feel like a lot more falls on your shoulders. Whether it be, like your family, a lot of times, like men feel like they have to be available and be whatever to like their moms, their sisters, even if it's their female friends or, just younger brothers, whoever it is, people that you are close to. I feel like men take on a lot of weight, even if it may not necessarily be theirs to take on. And when you say the time is what gave you that opportunity and that space to realize, yeah, some ain't right. Like I probably shouldn't be feeling like this. And I feel like as an athlete, for sure, like this, I think that transcends gender. Is an athlete, you are so busy, especially in college, like you're constantly moving, constantly doing stuff. And that's when I personally realized that I knew I had some issues with mental health in college, but I realized that it was even deeper than that after college when I stopped playing basketball, because then it's like, who am I? Like, I don't know who I am. I don't know where I belong. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I felt like I literally lost my identity whenever I wasn't a basketball player anymore. So I feel like as an athlete, that's major. Whatever sport you play, especially if you transition out of that, it's a struggle, and your mental health definitely goes on a quick decline until you take the time to feel those feelings and then sort through them and then find out, okay, you know what? I'm not just an athlete. You know, I'm more than that. There's more to me than just that. That was just a phase in my life.
What are some things that you noticed maybe in your mental health journey where you knew that my mental health is not where it needs to be?
So I always kind of had an idea that I was like anxious, but I was more anxious like scholastically, like I'm a student. So like when I'm not getting a subject or something, that was when I first kind of was just like, I had breathing issue, like it was heavy on my chest, or anytime like socially, I dealt with a lot socially in high school. So I feel like when I was going through all of those things, and I felt so much discomfort, or I always felt alone, even when I was around people, or, you know, I think it really stemmed in like middle school and high school because I got bullied. I got made fun of, and I never really understood why. I didn't understand why people just didn't like me. It wasn't a fun time. And in that, I thought I was dealing with it, but I really shut down, and I never really, I didn't allow myself to have a voice. I wasn't a fighter. So that wasn't something that I just like to read books and write and be creative. Like I'm nerdy. So I didn't quite understand. And then as I grew a little bit older and I went to college, then your challenges start to become a little bit heavier. So then I started to realize like, oh, wow, okay, so this is a thing. So then I think one time I had a panic attack and I went to the doctor and they were just like, well, you have, it sounds like you're dealing with depression with mild anxiety. And they automatically wanted to put me on prescriptions. And I was just like, I'm not doing that. But there's nothing wrong now in my big girl age. There's absolutely nothing wrong with getting medication or anything like that. Now I know my triggers. Before I didn't really understand like, well, why am I feeling this way? Or why am I feeling down? As an adult, I know my triggers a little bit, but I also know how to pinpoint when I'm not in the right state. And then I know the things to do to maybe try to minimize it, or I kind of just let myself feel that for a little while. And then the idea is to my big thing is let yourself feel however you're feeling, but don't sit in that. The problem is that people sit in it, and that's where you have people who commit suicide. That's where you have people who harm themselves because they're sitting in it. And I'm always just like, well, when I'm a mom, so I can't sit in it too long because she wants cupcakes, she wants fruit snacks. I'm constantly moving, so I'm not able to truly sit in my emotions. But when I have moments to myself, that's when I'm like, okay, you're not mentally where you would be. And I know when I'm mentally declining when I lose interest in everything. Like I'll go off the grid for months. And I just did it, like went off the grid for months. To the point where people's like, you okay? Like, even you hit me up, like, we ain't seen you in a while, you know? So I start to kind of become unmotivated, and depression and anxiety looks a little different for me now. So now it's kind of like, I went to therapy, and I learned that I have like functioning depression. So I know how to function. I know how to do everyday tasks and get through the day. But it's like a heavy day for me. It's not easy to walk and get up and just be Amber. I'm kind of like a zombie. I'm in like a zombie state. And now I'm in the healing journey. So I'm just trying to really pinpoint things that truly make me happy. Content creating makes me happy. Spending time with my family. I think I put my phone down a lot more now. Like I post what I need to post, and then I put my phone down. I watch my favorite movies. I read books. Like I'm in a book club. So I do things now to combat that when I'm feeling down. You have to figure out what your triggers are. You have to figure out when you're getting in that space. And then you have to figure out things that help you through that. And then you'll get back. Because sometimes it's for a season, it's for a second.
Yeah.
And then sometimes mine comes and goes. I may be great for a month and then boom. Sometimes nothing bad can happen and you just kind of feel sad. It's a chemical thing. Some things are situational. Sometimes it's situational for a lot of people. And sometimes it's chemical. So it really you just got to know. It's one of those knowing yourself kind of things. And for me, I just know I'm declining when my whole mood and motivation just declines. And that's not me, because I'm very driven. So when I'm to a point where I don't want to pick up nothing, I don't want to touch nothing, I don't want to talk to nobody, I don't want to do nothing, there's something wrong.
Do you mind sharing maybe some things that you have noticed are your triggers? Because I think some people don't even know like what is a trigger? Like, what does it look like, you know? So maybe sharing that.
So some of my triggers, I noticed that, well, one, social media is a trigger for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I struggle with comparison and thinking that other people are more privileged than me. Mm-hmm. So I limit my screen time. And if you have an iPhone, it has something on your phone that you can limit your screen time. So I limit my screen time. I'm very present when I'm with people. So like if I'm with my friends or if I'm watching a movie, I'm putting my phone down or I'm leaving it in the other room and I'm actually being present in the moment. So I knew social media became a trigger because I was on it all the time. And then I started to feel really bad about myself. And I'm like, well, I ain't doing nothing different in the last couple of days. So why am I feeling so bad? Because I'm not on a yacht, because I'm not on a beach, because I'm not traveling. I don't want to feel that way. So I put my phone down. And also people. I mean, I think I'm at a point now where I think I'm done with my purging process. So I've pretty much purged people out of my life, but people can be a trigger. The wrong people can be a trigger.
Yeah.
That's in relationships, that's in friendship, that's in family. If you have, unfortunately, a parent or a sibling that just doesn't click well with you, unfortunately, you have to distance yourself from those people and those things. Now, my boyfriend, my mom, I have people around me, my friends, I have a solid group of people who are always rooting for me and always uplifting me. And I always say birds of a feather flock together. And if you're not nothing similar to who you're dealing with, they're a trigger. Because then it triggers you to do bad things, be involved in bad things, or do things that you don't like, be who you aren't even.
You know, I really feel like in this day and age, I feel like social media is probably going to be most of everyone's, somewhere in the top of their triggers. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Because whether it be comparison or, you know, whatever it is, like social media has a way of making you have unrealistic thoughts or expectations of yourself, of people around you, of where you should be or where you shouldn't be, you know, all of these different things. And I feel like that, because even for me, I definitely relate 100% with the social media thing. Whenever you start noticing that you are declining, you know, first you need to acknowledge, like, this is not a good mental state for me right now. Right. Once you realize that, I think that the next step is communicating that with the people that's close to you. Because people cannot read minds, you know, as much as we would love for them to, which I don't know if I want people to be able to read my mind sometimes, but
right.
You know, but I'm like, wait, hold on, what did you just think? So, but you know, as much as we may, you know, feel like people should know us well enough to know, you still have to communicate with the people closest to you, because I know for me, like with some of my friends, they communicate with me like, yeah, I'm not in a good space today. So I'll just talk to you tomorrow. Or say if we have plans, but you know, that day is not a good day for them. Once it comes, they're like, hey, can we reschedule? Like, I'm not really feeling it today. And so I just think that communication is major, especially with people closest to you. And I think that also allows them to be more supportive. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So yeah, whether it be giving you that space you need, or if it's maybe they know you so well that they know, like, I know you want to be alone, but you don't need to be alone right now.
To talk to them. I've learned to be like, hey, are you in a space where I can communicate something to you? Because I'm kind of feeling this way. And I know you are, and I don't want this to be too heavy for you. So can you allow that space for me? And I've started really implementing that, and people appreciate that. And they'll be like, yes, I have space for you. I always have space for you. But I'm like, but I know that I don't always have space to give the type of, you know, motivation and encouragement that I know that I can give you and that I want to give you, but I can't do that because I don't even feel that within myself. As I'm getting older in my adult relationships, I used to get mad if my best friend didn't talk to me for X many days, but now I'm just like, you're grown. Like, if I'm going through something, you probably going through something. I'm not mad that we ain't talked in months. I'm not mad that, you know, we haven't communicated or hung out, because it just might be a season for you. And I think those types of things become really, and that maturity piece becomes very important when you're in a certain part of your healing process and really understanding and learning yourself.
What do you feel, or what do you think about seeking professional help? Because I know that's also that has a very negative stigma, not only among men, but amongst the Black community, amongst shoot, I feel like most people feel that way. It's only the select few that I've seen that are just like, oh yeah, I'm going to my therapist. You know what I'm saying? So what are your viewpoints or your thoughts towards getting professional help?
I can understand people's um, concern or misunderstanding because I mean, with anybody, even family and friends, sometimes you got to be careful who you just confide into.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that part. The misunderstanding is that it won't help at all. There's no way, or people gonna look at you funny. I mean, but that's a misunderstanding because I mean those people like they have a job and they have standards that they have to and rules and regulations they have to abide by. I myself, I got professional help one time. It was probably like 2 or 3 years ago, and but my first the stigma that I thought it was like it's weird. People gonna look at you different. Or they're not really gonna know what to say. And I went and tried it, and I've actually been trying to get back in contact with the lady that I first talked to because she helped me in so many ways that I did never knew she could.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I understand I understand people's concern but your concern shouldn't be because it's professional. Your concern should be the same concern that it is with anybody. It's just being careful about who you confide yourself into. Like you talking to a friend may or may not help you.
Right.
You talking to a parent may or may not help you. So it's the same thing with professional. Like it may or may not help you. Like nobody's guaranteed to help you unless you got that one person that you just feel so good around. Like their presence just uplifts you. That's a different story.
I've always wanted to. I'm one of the people, like you said, I want to be careful who I deal with. I want to deal with somebody very specific. And I'm a little lazy. So I haven't took the time to like vet anybody or look through or try to figure out. So that's why I ain't haven't sought professional help yet.
If you want somebody that knows you to talk to, then obviously you should go to someone who knows you. But if you need someone to just listen to and kind of provide you with steps on changing yourself in a better way, then that's when you should seek, professional help because they have different techniques on how to elevate your mind and how to elevate your thought process. And like I said, if you want someone who knows you and knows exactly what ticks you, exactly what makes you feel good, then yeah, a total stranger doesn't know you,
Right, right.
but they know techniques because that's the thing. Out of 7-8 billion people in the world, I'm pretty sure all 7-8 billion people go through some type of stress at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So there's techniques that help a lot of people, that they may know that you may like never try. Just like tying your shoe, like everybody does it a few ways, but it works for a lot of different people, like certain ways. So like they can provide you with professional ways to think or professional ways to practice and help train your mind. That's the difference. I mean, you can't go to a stranger expecting them to know you. So obviously,
right. So basically, understanding what it is that you're looking for when you're looking to talk to somebody. If, like you said, if you're looking for someone to be able to know you and be able to give you advice based on what they know about you, as far as like I know for me, I typically go to like my mom and like my best friends whenever because I need to know like, is this within what I would normally do, or am I tripping? Or like advice wise, like, is this taking me out of character, or am I, whatever. So whenever it comes to those type of conversations, yes, 100% go to people that know you and are truly concerned about you and want the best for you. Now, when it comes to the other aspects, like for me, the reason why I want to seek professional help is because I know that there are roots to my issues. And those things are a lot of times psychological. And it's things that you don't realize affected you until you do seek someone who is actually, like you said, have learned the different techniques, understand the human brain and how it functions, understand how environmental stressors can contribute to personality and all of these different things. Because, you know, that's another thing that I'm also passionate about. Like, I want to be able to help people in that realm, but I just want to do it from a different perspective. When you're in a relationship, I think that reveals a lot about some of the things that you struggle with. And brings out a lot of mental health issues. I know that most people that I know that struggle with mental health, you see a huge spike in that issue when they're in relationships, especially like unhealthy ones. So when you're in an unhealthy relationship, you start realizing like you don't have the best mental health, because if you were in a good space mentally, how this is going wouldn't take you all the way left field when it doesn't go how you expected it to go. Even to this day, when I'm dealing with people, whether it be friends or romantic relationships, I realize I'm able to gauge my mental health based on how I respond or don't respond to people. When you did seek some professional help, did that help you kind of move towards some healing in some of those areas?
For sure. But the misconception that a lot of people have is, okay, if I go talk to this, they're gonna fix me, or this person should make me feel better, and I'll be better for the rest of my life, or no other problems are gonna arise. Like, that's wrong. You can address one problem and even fix that problem, or even heal from that trauma. But the brutal truth of life is more problems are gonna arise. So there's gonna be new things that stress you out. There's gonna, hopefully no trauma, but there is gonna be more trauma. There is gonna be more losses. There is gonna be more rejection.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's gonna affect you differently every time, and it may hurt you. So, like, yes, I've healed. And I claim healing from certain things in my past that I will not let come back.
Right.
But things that may be similar arise, new things that may be similar or not too far off from it, like the situation, arise.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to self-assess and medicate and self-meditate, like, daily. You got to find time to see yourself and see where you are daily, as much as you can, because new problems rise. Like, in 2019, we didn't know 2020 was gonna do that.
Man.
So,
Man.
And that was a whole new stressor. Like, that was a whole new trauma. Like, a lot of people lost a lot of things. A lot of people. Me included. Like, we lost a lot of things. Like, but it was not expected.
Right.
And that's a whole new thing that a therapist or someone you talk to who helped you out in 2018, they didn't help you out for that happened, that new thing.
Nobody thought it.
Exactly. So yes, I have healed from I have healed from things, and me talking to people has helped me heal from certain things, but new things arise, new things arise, and it's a continuous battle to be happy. It's a you always have to take care of yourself. You don't just brush your teeth for an hour one day and you're good for a year. You gotta brush them every day. You gotta take a shower every day. I know some people don't, but
don't agree.
But
regularly is the point. Yeah. Wow, yeah. So that's definitely a word for people. Like you said, a lot of times people do feel like other individuals are responsible for fixing them, and it's like, no, they're responsible for helping you see things better, give you clarity about things, and give you tools to help you navigate. Because at the end of the day, I don't think that we'll ever be fixed. We're humans, so we're gonna always be imperfect. You're gonna always have, struggles and things like that. So I think it's just more so understanding, like you said, taking time to yourself to self-assess, to use those tools, and the clarity that you were given before, change your mindset. See things differently, and I think that's what helps you kind of move in a more healthy space and kind of stay there. Not saying that you won't get knocked out, like you said. There's new struggles and new things every day. So there may be something that comes that you never saw coming, and it can completely knock you off your feet. But I feel like once you have been given some tools and some, different ways to look at things, I think that it gives you it gives you a fighting chance to not be knocked out the game.
Let's kind of go into just the thought of, the fact that people do suffer in silence and the healing. So, because, there, like you said, there's seasons for people. And sometimes people in those seasons, they're either suffering in silence or they're healing in peace. And I say that because you have some people that distance themselves to heal, and you have others who distance themselves, and it's because of isolation. And so kind of figuring out how to avoid suffering in silence, but embrace healing in peace.
Right. I think it's important. So I was in both spaces that you just explained. Recently, within the last 3 months, I'll talk very candidly. Within the last 3 months, I've been in both spaces. I'm now in a healing and peace space, but there was a time where I was isolated, where I didn't really want to, but I was isolated because I was hurting, and I didn't know how to convey certain things and changes in my life, and how that would make me look, and how people would be disappointed or feeling like a failure. So it's the emotions that are attached to your thoughts and your process that make it tougher. So, and I'm very big on saying it's good to be positive, but it is very hard to be positive every single day. There are days where you just can't be positive. You just have to go through whatever you are going through. And for me, I think I just got tired. Like my emotions became fatigued of always feeling heavy, always feeling down, always crying. I mean, I was crying every day. Even I had times where I had to take a break at work and just cry and then get back to work like nothing happened. So I think when you isolate, you're kind of harming yourself. But I almost think that piece is needed if it's healthy isolation.
Like, what is your viewpoint on the isolation, both suffering in silence and the healthy aspect of just sitting in it and feeling those feelings and working through it?
I actually was just thinking about this like a few weeks ago, and I realized that it's true. Like the suffering in silence is true, because we actually make it worse on ourselves if we're an upbeat person. That's who we are. That's what, like, we love to talk to people, and then something goes wrong and we isolate ourselves. That in itself is a problem by itself, because we're not we're not living our normal lives. So that's going to alter our brain anyways, because we have separation anxiety from who we really are. And that makes the problem more, because it's whatever you're dealing with, on top of now you're doing something that you don't normally do, which is be alone, which is not talk to anybody, which is just struggle. And I totally agree with the suffering in silence, because I used to do it a lot myself. Something to go wrong, and then I wouldn't talk to nobody for a month or two, and it hurt me in many ways, because not talking to some people for a long time, it kind of messes with my communication skills, and it makes you feel more alone than you actually are. Because you had a bunch of friends, but you isolated yourself from them. They didn't tell you to get away. Nobody in the world didn't say, okay, get away from us. You did that. So I definitely agree with that part. And but you definitely need time sometimes to find your peace. Isolation, but that's different, because when you find your peace, you step away, not necessarily when something's just wrong, but when you need to reset, you just need to regroup. Like, you might have had a hard day at work. That doesn't mean something's wrong,
Right.
Or something went bad, but you got to reset. You got to reset your energy, reset your mind, reset your motivation. So they're definitely two different things, and I agree on both.
Yeah. So it's so interesting, because like with you saying that, for me, what comes to mind is those healthy isolations they're short-lived, because you it's like you're proactive before you hit that wall of, I don't want to see nobody, I don't want to talk to nobody, I don't want to do anything. It's like as soon as you feel yourself kind of be triggered by something, whether it be a bad day at work, or maybe you just having one of them days where you're not processing well, you can't it's just too much going on, maybe mentally, whether it be stress from what you feel like you need to be doing at that time, but it's not actually happening. And I feel like whenever you take some time, whenever you see that the onset of a decline, it's like, okay, let me step back, let me take some time to myself, let me breathe, woosah, rub my ears, whatever's necessary. I think that's how you make it a shorter isolation, which is healthy. You still are able to maintain those relationships that you have, but I think it also allows you space to better communicate. So I feel like I want to make sure people know they're not alone. Like you said, that isolation part, that's where that suicide factor comes in, is when you feel isolated, you feel by yourself, you feel like you're on an island. And so I feel like whenever you're more vocal about the struggles that you have as an individual, I think that starts connecting you to more people. More people start hearing what you're saying, and they start realizing, oh, they're not like other people struggle like I struggle. And then, someone like yourself, like you play professional sports, you're a football player, you successful, all these things. People, if they see you and say, oh, young little black boys, are gonna be like, dang, that's a thing. And it gives them, help. This is how I think of it. When you think of how Black people deal with stress, it's typically by self-medicating. But when you are putting all of those, those drugs, that alcohol in your system, that's not healthy. That's eventually, if you don't get that taken care of, that's going to kill you. So I feel like it's a long-term suicide that happens. A lot of people feel like weed ain't nothing wrong with weed, but weed don't do nothing to nobody, blah, blah, blah. But, I think in that instance, it is one of those gateway drugs, because when you're using it as a blanket to cover things and to fill voids and to escape from things, eventually that pain is going to seep through that little baby marijuana high. And when you think about the struggles that people go through, like a 13-year-old, not all people are privileged to grow up in a healthy home. So that's whenever I start taking a look at, wow, like mental health, not only does it affect you, but if you are a parent that struggles with mental health and you don't deal with that, those issues are going to trickle down onto your children. So it just keeps on going. It's just a snowball effect. Like it gets bigger and it gets bigger and it gets bigger. So that's why for me, mental health is so important. When you think about abuse, people do those things because the stressors, all the things on their minds, all of this, and they take it out on other people, children. And, I feel like if they knew how to properly manage the stress, the anger, whatever it is, then that child wouldn't have to suffer. So I really just feel like it's a revolving door of just all these things that just come out of people not taking care of their mental health and it not being talked about enough. Health. I remember the first time my dad started talking about mental health in church. And so you could tell it was an uncomfortable place for him, because typically the thing is pray about it or ain't nothing wrong with you. And so I think that people had to start coming to a realization that pray about all things, but God gives you good sense and he gives you people. The same way there's doctors that help you with your blood pressure, with all of that type of stuff. There's the same doctors that can help you with your mental aspect of you, because you're a whole being. You're not just physical. You have a mental, you have a brain, you have emotions, So I feel like once people start realizing that, they'll stop throwing those things around. Like, yes, pray about all things, but God places people and tools around you to use them wisely. That's why you pray. He gives you wisdom. He's supposed to lead you. And if you don't do that, that's almost like faith without works. That's dead. That's not going to happen.
You have to sit with your thoughts and your decisions and really understand what you're going through and take the lesson out of it. Because a lot of times it's God putting you through in a storm, which I'm learning. He's putting you in a storm because he's trying to show you something or trying to teach you something. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily to hurt you. Yeah. So now that I'm in a place of like trying to heal, I've gained acceptance over all those negative feelings that I felt. You have to get some sort of peace and grace with whatever your journey is. And that's the place that I'm in. I'm able to really, and even though I'm still in my season, but I'm able to sit back now and really understand, like, okay, this is what I felt. This is why I felt this way. And I'm okay with how I dealt with that, because I needed that. I needed that pain point so that I could grow as a person. You got to find the lesson in everything, because there's everything pretty much in life, every trial, there's a lesson attached to it. And if you're not learning anything and you're not becoming a better person after it, then it's kind of like, well, you know, like, you're just going to be sad, but you're not going to take anything from it. You have to pull something important from it and to be like, you know what, this isn't good and this don't feel good, but I know when I do feel better, I'm going to be a better person and I'm going to be able to help somebody else.
Right.
And it may be, you may have to help your parent through it, and they don't know how to get through it because it wasn't a topic in their household. So it becomes one of those things where you become appreciative of your pain because at least that's how I think of it. I feel like I've become so much more of a better person and so much more appreciative of small things and small wins. I feel like I took advantage of a lot of things I was privileged with. And now when you're stripped of that, because as soon as I'm a believer that if God, as quickly as God gave it to you, you can take it away. So having those things taken away and really having to look within yourself and deal with that mental peace, I just feel like I've become stronger. And check on your strong friends. I have to say that it's so key. People think when you're strong and you hold it together that you're always together, and you're not. And that's where that suffering and silence comes from, because strong people don't ever feel like they have a space safe enough where they can be vulnerable or they can be weak. And that's where having those people around you, that safe space, is important, especially when you're naturally a strong person. And I just had to say, hey man, I'm not strong right now. I'm struggling. I'm hurting. I need a hug. Like, I just talk, let me cry, let me, feel that. And being in a place of healing, I'm so appreciative of the journey. I'm so appreciative. I'm appreciative of my depression. I'm appreciative of my anxiety, because now I can help people. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. I don't want to take it, all the way to the Bible like that, but there is a verse in there where, it says in everything I'll find content in any situation. Because at the end of the day, regardless of how bad you feel like you are, things can always be worse. And like you said, sometimes your struggles and sometimes your trials are really a blessing in disguise, because there's another side to it, and you don't ever know what the other side is until you get through that trial, that circumstance. Because like you said, you end up having a different appreciation for things. Now you're at a position to where you can actually help people. Whereas if you had never gone through some of the things you're going through, there's no way you would be able to help people. And what I'm starting to see is people with hearts like ours and, wanting to be helpful. You start realizing, like, in order for me to be able to help people the way I want to, the way my heart desires, I'm going to be going through stuff constantly, because that's the only way that I'm gonna be able to continue to help people.
Right there. That's a word.
And exactly. And so, and that just came to me just now, just listening to what you're saying, because, like you said, you're strong friends. Like, I do believe that we're some of those people that are looked at as strong friends, because we do like to be vocal. We do like to make ourselves available to help people. We're very unselfish with ourselves. So it comes off as us being the strong friends or the go-tos. And like you said, sometimes
she can harbor all of my burdens. And it's just like, but then I've learned being that way, that sometimes there's no one to turn to when you're, or they're shocked. Like, what? Like, girl, shake it off. You'll be all right. And it's just like, no, like, I'm kind of not okay. I'm trying to tell you I'm not okay right now. I need you. So people, I mean, it's cool being strong. Don't get me wrong. I love being a strong Black woman. Okay. But I think people genuinely have to step out of themselves and really be like, damn, like, okay, my girl, she having a moment, like, oh, wow, this is real. This is real life. And I think because we're still young, and haven't experienced life, when life hits you, you're like, whoa, what is this? And it's ghetto here, like
man, the ghetto, like the absolute ghetto.
the ghetto, like ratatata. I be like,
it's like, who sent you? Didn't nobody sent for you? Nobody asked you to come in, but here you are, here you stand.
Adulting is just like, no.
Right. Because I literally this past like month and a half has been a true mental battle for me, because like you said, it's adulting. It's not necessarily life is just so terrible, but when you are dealing with those pressures of work, like being present at work and being like producing, being whatever these people need you to be in order for you to pay your bills, you know, like you having to do that. And I've learned, you know, I work in corporate America. You know what they say about corporate America? I don't really think too much about it. And then I started working in corporate America, and I'm like, I don't like this.
It's like, a whole different ball game.
It's a whole new level of like mental, like, what? When did this happen? Like, things can change and switch up so fast in corporate America, because like everyone knows, when you're in those levels, like it's about numbers. It's about this, it's about that. So at any point, you could be cut. That's another thing, is having friends that know what to say, can pray for you, because sometimes they may not have the advice that you need. And sometimes you don't need advice, you know? Sometimes you just need to let it out.
I'm just looking for someone. I want to be a thought. I think that's important. Like if when people randomly hit me up or send me scriptures or do things, that's important to me, because it means like I'm important to you. Right. Being important, feeling important is important to me. And when I'm in those moments, I just want to feel thought about.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't have words. Like, even because sometimes I can't explain to people how I feel. I just know, like, the best thing that can happen for me is me crying. I need to cry. I need to boo-hoo. I need to do that, because for me, that truly is a healing thing for me. Like, that release. Oh my gosh, like, I'm a crier. I'm a snotty nose crier. Anybody that knows me, if I watch The Notebook, I don't care if I've seen it 30,000 times, I'm still gonna cry the same amount of tears.
I cry in Facebook videos.
Girl,
I mean, on my phone, like, I can't believe the dog ran away. Like,
everybody has feelings, but people that are in touch with their feelings, yes, I think that they are more subject to that depression onset, just because like you see things, because I know sometimes my depression comes from just seeing the state of society. I'm like, bro, society freaking sucks. Like,
I don't watch the news.
There was
a point in time when COVID first happened and the Black Lives Matter movement, like I had to stay. It was one of those things where it's just like, you want to stay up to date, but then you want to not really be in the mix because it's just too much information. And I was just like, I'm gonna really cry to sleep.
Yeah,
like,
Black Lives Matter, girl. Black Lives Matter movement, whenever it first began, and you had all of these different things like George Floyd, like all of that, girl. I was like, I can't handle this. Like, I can't watch. Like, you know, people say, oh, y'all need to. No, I'm not watching anything else. Don't show me another video. Don't send it to me. Can y'all please stop retweeting this, please? Like, please just stop. Because it's like, you know, you want to get the word out. But for people like us, like, that is completely like draining. Like, when I say I just cried, and I'm just like, God, why are we here? Like, why do people do?
I didn't want to be woke.
Questioning. Look, it had me questioning. Look, let me sleep. I don't even want to be woke no more, because it's like, it had me questioning humanity. Like, people are so evil, and it was just like, it was crazy. So definitely, you know, monitoring that intake of everything, anything. Like you said, you got to do things that make you happy. But I'm just super excited that you joined me for this conversation. So is there anything else you would like to throw in, like anything, any advice, anything like that, just to end the conversation?
You know, I guess my biggest thing, and I think I've already said it, is just, if you are going through something, feel every part of that. There is nothing weird about you having a panic attack. There is nothing weird about you feeling sad. And there's nothing weird about you even if you have suicidal thoughts. But just make sure that you are actively trying to figure out a way to be better and deal with those, or find better ways to deal with those thoughts and those emotions, because they can quickly take over, they can quickly become a black hole, and it is hard to find yourself to get out of it, or it takes a little bit longer than if we would have done things to prevent in the beginning. So I will just say it's very important to feel however you feel. You are entitled to that because you are a human being, but also always try to be a better version of yourself and find ways to heal when you're hurting. We dealing and healing. We dealing with things and we're healing. So
All
yes,
right.
that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you so much, Amber Marie Mack. It has been a pleasure, as always, talking with you. You guys, make sure y'all go follow her on all platforms. Do that right now. Well, actually, subscribe first. Subscribe. Okay, now go.
To be notified when she posts her videos.
Period.
You know, just your piece to anybody watching. Like, what's one thing you want them to remember? If they don't remember nothing else, what would you like them to remember from Adam Shuler gang? Go ahead, shout yourself out.
One thing I like for them to remember when we talk about mental health is reach a high level of self-love first. Once you reach a high level of self-love, then you will prioritize doing the things that it takes to improve your mental health, physical health. But you got to really love yourself, and you got to really evaluate where you are. But you know, if you really love yourself, like we say we do, you know, I've been in that situation where I'm like, I love myself, but I'm still putting myself in dangerous situations, or I'm still putting my life. How can I love myself if I'm willingly putting my life in jeopardy? You know, like, so I really love myself, and I really love life. So I don't want to leave.
Right.
And I love myself a lot. So once you do that, you, like I said, you'll prioritize, you know, creating a better environment for yourself. And also, don't put too much faith in another human, another person, because like, it's good to have people that help you. It's good. We all need help. We all need somebody to help us. But nobody on this earth is our savior.
Mm-hmm.
I only know of one savior. I mean, I only know of one. So and that's often I struggle with this, and I'll be done. I leaned on one person so much. My great grandma, she was my lady in my chain. She was my everything. I leaned on her so much that when she was gone, I was completely lost. Mm-hmm. Which all my motivation, all my reason for being better was for another human. Mm-hmm. Humans just like me and you, we're gonna leave one day. Mm-hmm. So if all your motivation and all your structure, all your help is in a human, that's not just really good to put all your trust in another human. Your trust has to be in your beliefs, and then yourself, and then, you know, secondary help. And then people, like, you know, that there's, don't get me wrong, like, it's perfectly fine to have people as motivators, but you like, and as supporters, but you have to have the most faith in your belief and yourself that you can, you know, seek the right people or seek the right thing. It's you got to have the right chain of command, because when you put people or objects, they may disappear, and then you fall flat on your face. But that's all I got to say.
That was a good one. I wanted to jump on it, but I ain't gonna jump on it because that you ended it perfectly. So yeah, so basically, guys, what he's saying is love yourself. If you love yourself, then you'll do what it takes to take care of yourself. So
you'll find out how to.
Facts. You'll figure it out. It'll be a priority for you. So yeah, so I love that. Thank you so much for your time, Adam. I appreciate you sharing your viewpoints, sharing, you know, some of your experiencing with us today. So we are done. This ends the panel. So thank you so much again, and thank you guys for watching.